Hey everybody, welcome to Just for Fun Games. I'm your host Roy, and today once again we have Skylorenx or whatever. I don't even remember which one you address yourself with, Skylorenx, but Twitch streamer, cosplayer, all things nerdy. And today we're reviewing Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, before we go and even talk about this movie, let's just let it be known this movie. I'm hearing like two different things. Like it had a budget of 40 million and then 25 million. Either one, not a lot of money to go off of for a video game movie. But before I even say anything about this movie, Skylar, what were your thoughts on this movie?
Oh man. So I think for me, I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. So first off, I will say, um, are there worse video game movies out there? Absolutely. I think I've tried to be very fair to it because I know that the actors and crew members and all these people who come together to work on this film put a lot of time and effort into it. So I don't ever like to necessarily like destroy a movie, but I think that there was a lot of video game references that were true to source material, but they were not utilized correctly, if that makes
Yeah,
sense. So
I get it.
you can throw in
Go ahead.
yeah. Now, I was gonna say you can throw in all the really cool like cool outfit, this or like, oh, it's got the same logo, it looks like this, it's accurate, but at the same time, are all of those elements just like are they executed properly, basically? So that's kind of how there was parts that were cool, but altogether it kind of seems like kind of unorganized, really.
Yeah, like because I'm coming in as the fan, knowing well when I first saw the first trailer, I was like, "This is gonna be garbage," and
Oh yeah.
going in, knowing what I was expecting, damn, I didn't know it was gonna be that big of a garbage dumpster fire. This movie was gonna be like, I know what you're saying, like how you don't want to trash the actors because they're actors, they're doing better work than us. That's where I'm like,
Right.
I kind of draw the line right there. I was like, okay, now a couple characters miscast. We're going to talk about one in particular. Uh, but yeah, like overall, like this movie was so bad, it's comically bad. Like everything that was happening, I was just like, I know you kept glancing over every time I took notes on everything.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, oh man, they fucked this up, they messed this up because
I was
like,
like actually looking for your like looking at you like, are you seeing this? Are you seeing? Like,
like
I was like, so
at that point, I was just like, yo, what? Anything can happen at this point of the movie. It was just so ridiculous, and some of the dialogue choices, and and one fact, it wasn't even scary. Like
oh no.
like I had my kid with me, and he's passing me notes too. I'm like, I just go along with it at this point. But I mean, yeah, I would agree there are other worse video game movies, but this might be the one. I'll be like, ugh.
No, I was gonna say when you were talking about the trailer earlier, I remember my first impression of it. Somebody was like, "Hey, have you seen this yet?" And I kind of had been putting it off watching it because I was very scared of disappointment, which clearly, it was like it just happened. I was like, well, I'm disappointed already, so I was already kind of preparing myself for this. But the CG is what really got me. The
Mm.
CGI dog in the trailer,
Oh
and I was
yeah.
like, oh my god. I was like, that's horrible. I was like, I really hope this is like, like how it says in video games, this is test footage, not the actual footage. And I'm like, oh
Oh
come on,
no,
they're gonna have to
they
refine
said,
this.
yeah, well, we got 40 million. I felt like the only good CG was the liquor, the close up shot of the liquor. That was it.
Uh, that was questionable too, in my opinion, but it
Well,
was a little
my
better than the dog.
any CG in this movie was like, I want to say it's like almost late PS2, PS3 graphics, almost.
Yeah, I can agree with
But
that.
like and it's funny because everybody wants to dog the Paul Anderson Resident Evil movies. Yeah, I've seen them
Mhm.
all. I've seen them all, and yeah, they're bad, but it's not. It doesn't make me be like, oh, I can't believe you told like the first movie going in. That was totally separate storyline from the game. So that's why I let that one
Mhm.
pass. I'm like, okay, yeah, that was its own story, and then it kind of followed up with Resident Evil 3, and then after Resident Evil Apocalypse, the movie, they went in a whole nother direction. They was like, we're just gonna start throwing random video game characters. Here's Leon, here's Claire, here's Wesker,
Yeah.
and nobody knows what's going on. But in this one,
Right.
like they just throwing character like we like see that's the hard thing about making these video game movies. The fans know who the characters are, but you got to also please the people who don't know Resident Evil.
Right.
And and to me, looking at Jill, Leon, Wesker, those are not, in my opinion, not the correct representation of those characters that you see in the game. All right, we're going full spoiler territory at this point because I can't hold my tongue anymore. I got a vent. The one big disappointment, and it was disappointing right from the jump, was the casting of Leon S. Kennedy, and I think who played. Wait, Avon. I'm gonna butcher his last name, but the kid from Victorious. That enough right there.
Mhm.
It should tell you. I was like, okay, they chose a different approach. I have no problem with the ethnicity
Right.
or anything right here, but the direction,
Right.
like,
To kind of diversify the
yeah, I mean,
cast.
I'm all fine with that, but to the way that I would assume the script had to been the way they wrote this character, they made him seem like he didn't know anything. He was a bumbling idiot this whole movie. Like for I'm gonna sit at the front. He's working at the front desk.
So this might have been one thing that you caught. I'm not sure, but I definitely caught it. Was when Leon woke up in the hotel room and he had like Jack Daniels bottles, beer bottles, all that stuff around him, pretty much already implying that he's an alcoholic, and or has probably like some kind of substance abuse. I guess is the best way to say it. But it's not actually reported in the manga, and then like I guess you could say like CG movies or whatever that he doesn't have an alcohol problem until after Raccoon City because that's when the trauma really hits him. Like, oh, like people died in Raccoon City. Like it really he has a hard time getting over it.
Hmm.
So it's weird. I felt like there's different bottles, like different like alcohol, like saying like, "Oh, we're getting this right," because everybody knows Leon has an alcohol problem. And I'm like, no, no,
Oh,
he doesn't usually get that until after because of all the trauma he has to deal with. And I'm like, and again, this is what I was saying earlier. I'm seeing these Easter eggs that they're throwing in there, and but they're not executing them correctly. I see like different little breadcrumbs basically, but it's just not implemented the right way.
yeah.
So
Like I mean, well, like it's hard to say because like what pisses me off, I see the like little advertisements like fan, film for fans by the fan, whatever and it's hard for me like
yeah.
the big diehard fans seeing like all this crap being thrown in there and like okay, yeah, you
Hmm.
got Lisa Trevor in there, you didn't execute that right. You got William Birkin,
Yeah, she's like
didn't.
friends with Claire.
Yeah, she's buddy with Claire and Leon. All of a sudden, like I remember in the game, the first Resident Evil remake, I'm terrified when she shows up. I'm like, nope, I got to get out of there. But apparently, hey,
Yeah.
she heads lock a liquor and busts his face open, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's up with that? And then the very beginning with, I mean, I didn't mind because I know within the story, Chris and Claire's parents had passed away and they were pretty
Yeah.
much orphans, but not at that orphanage, not with Lisa
Right.
running around and playing with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
And then
that
it also there was in the orphanage I saw a poster about the first aid spray.
yeah, I saw that.
And I was like, that's just such a weird thing to throw in there. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. It just seemed very out of place.
But yeah, and then the whole fact that Raccoon City is a ghost town. like if it's a ghost town, then why are we worried about shit going on here?
Right.
I rather had more population be like, okay, this city is thriving, not just because we're like, oh, Umbrella wants to get out of here because nothing going on here, and you can still do your experiments and stuff, but there's without people there, there's nothing really you can do.
Yeah.
And,
Correct me if I'm wrong. You might have to look this up, but Raccoon City is based off a Midwestern U.S. City, town or city. Do you know what it is? I can't remember.
I can't remember off the top of my tongue.
Because if you look it up, it'll tell you what it's based off of. But it's supposed to be based off a pretty high traffic city, like a populated city. Like maybe not to the degree of New York or anything. That's why I
No,
was kind of surprised. Like, why did they make it a ghost town?
but
Yeah.
another thing I noticed that they got wrong between the game and that's why it's so hard because you're trying to please people who don't know the game and then trying to
Right.
please the fans is that the virus got broke out within the water. They put it in the
Yeah.
water. I'm like, but everybody else, Leon and Jill, the sort of whole stars unit, they're okay. I don't know what.
Yeah. They're like, we've been drinking the water just fine.
I mean, they try to address it in the movie. Claire takes the water bottle and it's like, she just pours it. I mean, I don't know what the hell she's gonna find, but yeah, like Chris Redfield and William Birkin being close, like that's his father figure. I'm like, the movie keeps getting worse and worse at this point, and it's like I got here. Like bad enough. I'm trying to read my notes because it was dark in there. I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Itchy Tasty. That whole line that even wasn't for a resident. That was for like a doctor, not a doctor. I can remember.
It's in the first Resident
Yeah,
Evil game. It's when
I'm trying to remember
it's
who wrote it. It was a grounds. I want to say it was like a groundskeeper or something because he was feeding the
yeah, he
dogs.
kept a diary
Yeah,
in like one of the you go into the room because I remember what happens. You go into the room, you start flipping through the journal, and then all of a sudden once you like I think close out of it, the actual zombie or whoever the person is falls out of the closet or something nearby or whatever, and
yeah,
then like starts chasing you.
bust out.
But they could even use that reference a lot differently rather than the woman just writing it in blood on the window.
Yeah,
They could have
go ahead,
they
go
could
ahead.
have easily implemented it by if they wanted to, by whenever they went into the mansion, they could have like nudged a body over that was on the floor, and then the body could have been laying on a book and it said "Itchy Tasty" written in the book. Like they could have
Yeah, see,
literally
I would have
done
liked
something
that
like
better than
that.
what they were doing in the beginning, and
Right.
like with the Chris's neighbors next door. But
Right.
yeah,
And it
like
was
and
weird that they made their hair fall out too, like the zombies, because
I wasn't feeling that either because like that's what one of my son's notes was when he passed it to me is like when they were all on trying to assault the precinct, they were still
yeah.
talking. It was like, let us in. And then he passed me, he's like, why the zombies talking? And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. As it is, it's just what it is. But yeah, touch back on that CG. Like it
Yeah.
when that damn dog shows up and it's all CG. I was like, why? You had a dog in the
Yeah.
beginning with the truck driver. Why couldn't y'all? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the budget. I don't know how to make movies or anything.
Right.
But in the first Resident Evil film, you had a real dog within that makeup to pull that off.
Yeah.
I mean, they might have did like some digital work on around the face to show like the eye
Yeah.
turning red or whatever. But this one
Right.
is just like, God.
Well, what got me was even like if talking about just like again with CG and everything too, is I made a comment to like Rob when we were in the theater. I was like, okay, they wanted to get accurate the Resident Evil 2 remake opening where the truck driver is eating a burger, but they didn't care about anything because you remember when he picks up the burger and it looks literally just like the same burger in like Resident Evil 2, and I'm just like, okay, they wanted to get this part right, but
Yeah.
like everything else was just so weird, you know?
It's like I don't want to knock them, but I got to. It's like the director played the intro for Resident Evil 2 and like got halfway through the first Resident Evil. Like, shit, I guess I can make a movie out of that. You know,
Yeah.
and just put, and that's another thing. You're putting two games into one film. Yeah, you know, the first Resident Evil, uh, taking place within the mansion. Then you got Resident Evil 2 taking place in Raccoon City with the police precinct.
Right. And
And
from
that's a lot of information between those two games to cram into this movie that's 2 hours. Like, and
right.
even within the first hour, we didn't even really see anything going on until that time. That's when they had to go to the mansion.
Well, another thing was too, if I because I did my research on the timeline, because I remember even when the trailer came out, I said, why did they decide to do two and one at the same time? Because technically two and three happen at the same time. I was confused, and I was like, because the mansion incident happens first, and I believe that's in the summer. It's in like June or July, and
Yeah, it
then
was
by the
July.
time that September rolls around, that's when Raccoon City is like basically going to hell. That's like there's outbreak and everything going on. So, because by that time, because I know we're about to touch on characters, Jill is kind of not very confident. In the first game, she's a little bit. I would say she's a little more timid. And then by the time like three comes around, which is at the same time of two, she's kind of badass. She's like,
Yeah,
okay, I can do this. Because she's already been through it.
yeah. Where
So
in this film they try to, I want to say, make her a badass. She had more cocky, arrogant attitude,
yeah.
and I wasn't feeling that. I was like,
Mm-mm.
I would hate to say, because I do love the actress, the one who played Jill in the Paul Anderson films. I like that Jill.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because that,
Yeah.
I mean, she can't, like, she basically, that one where she was playing Resident Evil 3 Jill, coming in being a badass, and then
Mm-hmm.
and this one straight out the gate, I was like, who the like, if I was a new viewer that didn't know anything about Resident Evil, I'm like, who the fuck is this? You know?
Well, she almost seemed like she was kind of like I described her almost like a party girl, and Rob was like, well, I wouldn't say that, but it also almost seemed like she kind of wanted to goof around and really wanted to kind of stick close to Wesker. And while Chris
Yeah.
is clearly pining over her, and clearly Leon is too, or now, and I'm
I
just like,
don't,
what is going on here? So
I don't know, but they try. And here's another thing about this movie: not one time they mention the word stars.
oh, I didn't even realize that. You're right. Yeah,
I'm
they
like,
didn't.
it's like, you heard Bravo team, and
Yeah.
I can't remember if I heard this review or somebody else had mentioned it to me. Like, if it was a ghost town, why the hell would you need a Alpha team and a Bravo team? You know,
Right.
So, but I understand that. It's like, yeah, that does seem kind of pointless. And then you had a, you pretty much had Brad Vickers in it, but he dies in this. You know, crashes into the mansion. Oh yeah, I skipped the whole part where Wesker plays Jill's part in the damn puzzle where Jill's supposed to play Moonlight Sonata, not Wesker. But I let it
Yeah.
slide. I let it slide because Wesker was the
Right.
more behind the scenes. Like, oh wait, I gotta play this, and I
Mhm.
don't know what device he had. Some PDA, old school PDA from '97, where
Yeah.
he somehow had the notes played up on the PDA. But God,
I I don't know. It just seemed really weird because Wesker seemed confused most of the time what was going on. Like he had no clue of anything. He was just like, "Huh? What is this?" Like, and I'm just like, "Wait a minute, what?"
yeah, at that point, I feel like he was just in it like for the money. He's like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna just do this, ignoring the whole actual what's supposed to happen to Wesker. So I
Right.
like at that point in the movie, I was just like, well, I guess anything goes from now on.
One of the parts that really got me was the Raccoon Police Department chief. He was like freaking out. He's like, "There's sirens. There's this going on. There's this going on." And I'm like, "Shouldn't you know what's going on?" But he like, I made a note about this when I gave my own review. When people were asking about it, I just kind of put a quick, typed up something very quick. I said either the actors were overreacting to situations or seemed confused. And I know that's partly the script and the director. That's if they don't seem like they know what they're doing, that's partly on them. But it was like I felt like the police chief was always overreacting to everything. while like the other actors like Leon or Wesker didn't know what the hell
Whoa.
they were doing.
Yeah, about to say the police chief. I mean, I love him as an actor, but in this
Yeah,
movie,
same.
he was pretty much like, shut the fuck up and listen to me. You got to go out there, and I'll be
Yeah.
back in a couple minutes. When I just leave out here. Oh wait, shit's blocked. Let me go ahead, turn right back around, go back to the precinct. And what the hell? He had two guys blocking the, I assume, the only exit out of Raccoon City.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And
I think that was supposed to be a reference to Hunk, because if you notice too that he had the gas mask on and he had a umbrella logo on his arm, and that's when they just started shooting the citizens who are escaping the city. And then you see the guy step up with the combat boots and the full get up, and he has the gas mask on, and I was like, oh, okay, they're trying to make a reference to Hunk or whatever. So I was just like, okay, then.
Poor attempt, but
Yeah. So
I let it slide. At that point, I was like, yeah, this is just a random umbrella soldier. But
yeah.
going even further, Claire, Leon, and Lisa somehow managed to find a way to go under Raccoon City, find a lab, and guess who's there? William Birkin and Wesker. And I'm thinking, please don't fuck this up. Please don't fuck this up. They fucked it up. I thought Wesker and Birkin were gonna be like, "Hey man, what's up?" But
yeah.
Wesker ends up shooting Birkin, and then kills Annette. I'm like, and Annette, and that's another thing. Annette knows nothing about the virus. She's like, "What have you been doing down here?" I'm like,
she's like, "What have you been doing?" And in the game, she's like in on it too. Like she knows, because she's a scientist too.
yeah,
So
yeah, and Sherry Birkin, she might as well not even been in this movie, because she doesn't even play a role in it. She just happens to tag along with Jill, Claire, Leon, and Chris at the end. But
right.
I just forgot. We skipping way ahead. The whole Chris and Jill, Wesker entering the mansion. The whole mansion, the lobby, pretty accurate. I mean, it was cool, a little tight, but it was good. But the whole scene where Chris is shooting out all the zombies, I assume would be the dining room. That was cool. I like the little short flashes of him fighting the zombies. But the one thing that killed me is when he was pulled out the lighter and he's playing with the damn lighter, and he had one of his teammates or whatever from Bravo team reanimates to become a zombie. He's flicking the light and the shit goes out, and he flicks it again. The zombie's getting closer. I'm like, yo, at this point, why are you playing with the lighter? Get your ass up.
Like, get out of there, seriously.
And then he clicks it again, and the zombies are not even there. And I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden, it magically is behind him. I don't know. And then luckily, Jill comes in and with her submachine gun and saves the day. But oh my god, could it get any worse? Can it get any worse?
And they also I guess, like you were saying, we kind of got ahead, but like there's also again another misused reference at the beginning of the movie where Jill, I believe it's Chris, Leon, and Wesker are all at a diner/bar, and they are, I guess Wesker is eating a sandwich, and Jill steals the sandwich and says, "Now it's a Jill sandwich," and I'm like,
that's not what the reference was for.
And I was like,
no, the reference was, and by the way, that wasn't even her line to say. Where was Barry? Where's Barry?
They didn't even cast anybody as Barry.
I say you had, basic Leon, Claire, Chris, Jill, Wesker. You had Brad Vickers. You had Richard, who was supposed to be part of Bravo team. That's it. William, Annette, Terry, Ben, the reporter, and that was another dumbass scene when he was in the cell and Leon like, "Hey, what are you doing down here?" And Ben takes his gun and aims it at him, and he's like, "What's wrong?" And he had another inmate in there. He's like, "What's wrong with him?" I was like, "I don't know. He's just been coughing up blood, normal stuff." Like, if you had that gun right there, wouldn't you shoot him?
Right. And also too, he's the one that's been telling Claire about what's going on. So wouldn't he assume that if a guy was coughing up blood next to them and seemed ill, that the reports that he'd been giving Claire clearly that might make him a little suspicious that that guy's been infected as well. You
right?
know, common sense, but clearly.
There was no common sense in this movie. Oh my god. But yeah, in the end, Birkin gets shot. Pretty much tries to reanimate himself with the G virus. Hopefully that was the G virus. It wasn't said it was G virus, but we the fans know
Right.
it's supposed to be the G virus. He comes back and another bad CG monster right here. Oh my god. Ugh. So I guess he's supposed to be the one with the eyeball walking around,
Yeah.
and
Right.
he's still talking shit. He's like talking shit to Chris. Was like, "Oh, you thought I was a father figure to you, but in reality, you whatever."
Surprise.
Yeah, surprise. I'm like, okay, but and then eventually, they take him out, and then they finally find the train. I was like, okay, getting on the train. William comes back, and another bad CG monster right here because they still put his face on the monster. I'm like,
Right.
good. And then who comes to steal the show? Leon S. Kennedy. And at this point, and I swear to God, him being a bimbo that he is in this movie, when he pulled that rocket launcher out to shoot William, I thought the damn shit might have went backwards. If the rocket
You're
went back,
right,
I
right,
was like, oh man, he's pulling a commando. The damn rocket's gonna go backwards. But no, he
right.
kills the William Birkin, and Chris is like, a rocket launcher? He's like, yeah, found in the first class.
Yeah, just like, and then it's like dun 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 dun, dun
And
kind of
then
thing almost.
and then while they're finally getting away, the whole Raccoon City doesn't blow up from a nuke or a missile. It just caves in.
Like cave in, yeah, like an earthquake
I'm like,
almost.
I'm like, okay, that doesn't really solve all your problems because you're just now making a big crater for your
Right,
experiments. But shit just
and
happens.
it also tends by them doing that too, kind of like what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of invalidates pretty much a lot of what we know about the Resident Evil stories because even when you start playing other games, like I believe in 4, Leon is doing commentary and was like, "It's been X amount of years since the Raccoon City incident," and then he's like, the government just wiped it away like it never happened, but we all know what happened," kind of thing. And I'm like, well, when you do that, you kind of invalidate like the whole story at that point because you're literally like just acting like it was either it didn't happen
Well, I
basically.
mean,
And
within the game, they knew it was Umbrella's fault, and that's
right,
where the fall of Umbrella begins. But Umbrella being Umbrella, they still were still doing side shit. You know,
right,
but disappointing to not to see the whole town blow up. But then
yeah,
again, you're on a 25 or $40 million budget, so I guess that CG you had for the liquors and the monster and the CGI
that blew the whole
dog,
budget.
yeah, that was the whole budget, I guess. But yeah, so you see Leon, Claire, Jill, Chris walk off to the sunset. Not even that. I mean, you only see them coming out of the smoke, and that's it.
Hmm.
End of Resident Evil, or so we think. Because they got to be like Marvel and put a post-credit scene in there. And this one, I was like, oh shit, who's it gonna be? What possibly
Oh,
character they gonna ruin next? Wesker wakes up in a body bag, which we forgot Wesker got shot, by the way.
right.
Wesker's back alive. He's like, where am I? And then you see some woman talking, and I don't remember the dialogue because I was just laughing at this point. But it's Ada Wong. Ada Wong brings Wesker back and hands him a pair of sunglasses to replicate the same way he looked in the actual game. And he's, I'm like,
He's like, I can't see. And she says that's just a side effect from the what we gave you. And so like I don't know the exact language. I don't know if she said if that's the side effect from the medicine or uh the virus. I don't remember the exact language, but he's like, I can't why can't I see? And like and then he puts on the glasses. He's like that gave him sight, like he's Cyclops or something. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, and not only that, Ada. I'm not trying to kind of like, because I don't know if this was more of the director, wardrobe, or whatever choice. Like, she had on like so much makeup and like had like a jewel like necklace thing on. It was just odd. I was like, who is this person? And the only thing that really looked like Ada was the fact that she had short dark hair. Um, I believe I don't know who the actress was. I believe it was
Hold
I don't
on.
know. Would you say it was?
Lily Gao. I'm about to say.
I guess they like tried to cast her to fit, the role, but like she just it didn't really look like Ada. She had like some trench coat or something weird on.
Well,
I don't know. It
well,
was just very odd.
see. That's why I say this guy, the director, clearly was getting reference from the remake of Resident Evil 2.
Hmm.
Because Ada, when you first meet Ada in the game, she's wearing the trench coat and get up.
Hmm.
That's why I was like, oh, here's Ada Wong. How you gonna mess this
Yeah.
up now? And it was totally messed up. And quite frankly, if that was the way they were setting up a sequel, I don't want a sequel. End it
No.
here. I'll say I like this. Like I said, this was a hot heap of trash.
I
And
saw an interview with, I guess, the director, whatever. He said he would love to do Resident Evil 4, but he doesn't want to do that one just yet. And he wants to do Code Veronica. And I was like, no. I was like, no, just don't do any more at all.
yeah, just
don't.
stop right after. Well, like as of doing this review right now on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at a 28%. IMDb is at a 5.6 out of 10, and Metacritic is at 44%. Will it get the sequel? I hope. I'm trying to warn y'all. Don't see this movie. Like what hurts me is like I see comments on like Instagram. Every time I see a Resident Evil ad, I'm like, let me just look at the comments and see what people are saying. I'm seeing reviews like it was awesome, it was great, it was just like the movie. I'm like, yo, who paid y'all? Oh, your camera went out.
Oh yeah, somebody's calling me. I hung up.
But yeah, it's like who paid y'all for this? Just to say these things because I want some of that cut, but I'm not going to bite.
Yeah. I'm a part of a fan group too, Resident Evil fan group, and I've seen people be like, "It was awesome. It was very entertaining. Loved it. Better than the other movies. This, that, and the other." And I'm like, like both movies have their faults clearly, but I think out of all of it, I would say to take away a positive. If you're is it a slightly entertaining movie? Yes, to some degree it is. It wasn't bad enough where I need to walk out of the theater. That's for sure.
Look, it was bad enough because you bought the ticket. I was like, about to walk out. I'm about to walk out.
There were parts that were infuriating, I will say. Overall, what my review when I had typed up something said is, if you're looking for an accurate representation of the games, look elsewhere, because this is not it.
Yeah.
If you're looking to be entertained for a little bit over an hour, okay, sure. Did it Claire was pretty good. The actress that did Claire, I think she did a pretty good job. And the gentleman that played Chris, he did an okay job as well. And he looked accurate. He looked to the part too. They gave him the green vest and all that other stuff. Sadly enough, I can't really say super great things about the character Jill, Wesker, or Leon. Again, I'm not trying to blame the actors. It could have been the direction that the director was going for, and also the script. But I will mention the two positives of the Redfield, the Redfield family. But other than that, I don't know about you if you had any other positives about the movie.
Well, I could just tell you what I would give it. I would give it a 2 out of 10. There's nothing that I'll say, yeah, I will go this low. Because there's nothing in this movie, like, it's as bad as I see, like, comments are like, yo, it's just so accurate like the game. Yeah, maybe the scenery, is the scenes, mansion, the RPD mansion, the RPD mansion, the RPD precinct, whatever. Those were accurate. But as far as, like, the story beats, no, none of that was accurate. Some costume designs feel accurate here and there.
Right.
But as far as like if you're a diehard Resident Evil fan like me, you, or anybody else, this was gonna piss you off. This was gonna piss you off very much. It's like
I'll give Yeah, I'll give it a 3 out of 10 just because of the costumes were pretty accurate. So that's 1 point for me. The next point is the scenery. They did a pretty good job in the police department, like you were stating, in the mansion. And then I'm going to give it one other point because Claire, I thought, did a great job. And I thought, the girl who played Claire, she was pretty badass. And then, the guy who played Chris, kind of looked the part, even though he wasn't fully the part. So I'll give it a 3 out of 10 just to
And
give him a little bit of slack.
one more thing we forgot to mention is when the truck driver turns into that
Oh
dumbass
no.
zombie. This is like literally when I wanted to walk the fuck out. Leon's sitting at the front desk, truck flips over, blows up, doesn't hear it. And granted, this is 1997, 98.
He's got headphones in too.
Those headphones are not like the ones we got today where it's noise canceling.
Noise canceling.
But and I forget what damn song the zombie walks in, and I swear to God, he's walking in. At that point, I thought he could have just got on the damn countertop and just struck a pose right in front of Leon, and he would have saw that shit. But
I laughed out loud during that part. It was like comedic more than anything that the zombie came in, like just flaming, and they're playing the '90s song "Crush." I forgot. I don't know. It's like I want to say it's like Jennifer Page or something that sings it. But I'm just like, what is going on here? Like
this is not that was not the perfect timing for that comical bit. Like when shit's starting to get serious, and you're like, I'm like, oh my.
To add to that, though, because you said explosion. So there, I know that action movies are not going to be accurate. Horror movies are not going to be either. But I have noticed there was a thing I noticed throughout the movie is that the truck and the helicopter that was at the mansion took a second to explode. It wasn't like that's not normal. Like it shouldn't explode immediately. It was like flip, explode, and then the helicopter exploded like immediately. Like, and I was like, okay, like what's going on? Like it yes, it's not going to be super realistic because it is a zombie movie, but it was like, who are you? Like who decided to do this? So it was just, I don't know. Even some video games are like more accurate. I remember when you have to shoot down a helicopter in Resident Evil 6 and it doesn't explode immediately. It takes a minute to explode.
I would like to forget Resident Evil 6. But
well, Resident Evil 6 is a better game than this movie.
Oh
so
yeah, yes, I would highly agree. If you want to see something almost close to this, play Resident Evil 6. But
yeah,
6 is better than this. So I would not highly recommend seeing this in theaters, and I probably wouldn't even recommend seeing it at home. Wait till this thing is on like free. Like if it's on Netflix, Hulu, HBO, I don't care wherever it's going. Watch it when it's free, because I like at that point I was like driving home. I'm like, God damn, I want a time machine so I can go back in time. Like that you've seen the TikToks where they making fun of the people that's like telling their past self, like, no,
right.
no. That's what I want to do. I'm like, I do not want to see this movie ever again. And
like that reminds me of like Ryan Reynolds with Green Lantern, just going back and being like, nope, don't do the movie.
Right, don't do it.
So,
but overall, would you want a sequel? Do this.
Would I want a sequel to this? No, I would not want a sequel at all. No, absolutely not. I couldn't even believe the end credit scene was ridiculous. I was like, they could have just done without. Like, honestly, it was like, kind of bad.
They squandered a good moment. They did. Leon comes in there with the rocket launcher, blows up William, and when everybody's walking off the train, he could have just did the one line from Resident Evil 2. Turns around, he says, "Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella," and then cut to the credits. That would have been perfect. I would have been happy with that. I would have maybe bumped this up to a 5, but they didn't do it.
Well, no, instead they decided to do the little typing on the screen, the green typing, and it says Raccoon City, like the status of everything, and I'm like, what is this, like a weird, like it felt like one of those weird 90s TV shows like back in the day where it had like when the writing would come up on the screen and stuff.
Well, they were trying to mimic the first Resident Evil in the
Mhm.
remake, because that's how the intro started. You just
Oh,
see
that's right. Yep.
Raccoon City Forest, July 1997, and then
But they did it at the end. It was like Raccoon City demolished, and I'm like, okay. I'm
well,
like,
good,
got it.
good.
This should just had "You Are Dead" at the end.
All right, so I'm gonna end it there because I feel like I've got that finally off my chest. It's finally free. What did you think of Resident Evil? Welcome to Raccoon City. Leave it in the comments. Be sure to like, subscribe. Until next time.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.